This video is on how to loom knit a scarf with braided cables. You'll find it easy to follow along since I've made hand-drawn diagrams to help you out. I'll explain more later how to use these visuals. Thanks so much for watching Ms. Yarn. If you haven't subscribed yet, please click subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my easy to follow tutorials. Today we're going to cover number 1, how to mark your loom. Number 2, how to cast on. Number 3, how to do the braided cables. Number 4, how to add new yarn. And number 5, how to bind off. For the supplies you'll need a long loom with at least 28 pegs, since we'll use 14 pegs along each side. You'll need 2 balls of bulky yarn. I used Estelle Bulky. You'll need a hook, a pair of scissors, a yarn needle, and something to mark 6 of your pegs. Let's look at our loom. We'll use 14 pairs of pegs. I'm calling the pegs at the top the A pegs. I'm calling the pegs at the bottom the B pegs. So let's mark pegs 4B, 5B, and 6B with something, as well as pegs 9B, 10B, and 11B. I'm using yellow paper that I've taped to my loom. These markers will help with the twisting that's involved with the braided cables. Let's begin our figure 8 cast on by tying a slip knot on the anchor peg. Let's wrap peg 1A counterclockwise, then wrap peg 1B clockwise to make our first figure 8. Let's continue to make figure 8s like this until you get to the 14th pair of pegs. After wrapping 14A, I pull my yarn down in a straight line towards me. I wrap 14B, then rewrap 14A. I then make new figure 8s right over top of the old figure 8s. Let's retrace our steps all the way to the left of the loom. I'm at the left side now, and I'm wrapping 1B, then 1A. Let's knit over the bottom loop on 1A, and we'll knit over all of the bottom loops along those top pegs. Now let's knit over along the bottom pegs. We won't touch 14B though, since it only has one loop. We're finished knitting over all of those loops, and now we're going to tighten the cast on. Look at the bumps of yarn in the middle of your loom. I've pointed out 5 bumps for you. We're going to be pulling on them. Pull up on the bump on the far right, then pull up the bump to its left, and keep working your way bump by bump all the way to the left of your loom. While I'm using my fingers to do this in this video, you can also use your hook to help you out. As you can see, we're removing a lot of extra yarn. Now, by doing this step now, we won't have to worry about tightening up this cast-on edge later at the end of our project. Now that you have the hang of it, let's split up and we'll meet in a few minutes at the left side of the loom. So we're at the left side of the loom. Pull up on the bump above peg 1B, and we'll use our hook since it's a bit tight. As we pull out all of the extra slack, let's make sure the loop on peg 1A doesn't come off the loom. It's pretty loose. So you can see all of the extra yarn in my right hand. With my left, I'm taking the knot off of the anchor peg. I'm pulling that yarn towards the left and taking all of the extra yarn with me. Let's take the tail and tie a knot with the working yarn. Now lay the tail across the loom. Good news! The figure 8 cast on is done. Let's take a moment to talk about the 6-row repeat that will give you this braided cable design. We'll learn how to do row 1, which goes left to right, and we'll learn how to do row 2, which goes right to left. Rows 1, 3, and 5 are wrapped in the same way from left to right, and rows 2, 4, and 6 are wrapped in the same way from right to left. After row 3, we'll be doing left twists, and after row 6, we'll be doing right twists. That will give you the braids. Okay, let's jump into the demonstration now. Let's push down the loops and start creating this braided cable design. Follow the drawing above by wrapping peg 1B. Make a large figure 8 over the next 2 pairs of pegs, starting with peg 3A. Make zigzags on pegs 4, 5, and 6. Make another large figure 8 over pegs 7 and 8. This is the center of the design. Make zigzags again, this time over pegs 9, 10, and 11. Make our last large figure 8 over pegs 12 and 13. Now make a zigzag at 14. We have wrapped row 1, and now it's time to knit over all of those bottom loops. We're just knitting over along the B pegs. We can see the yellow markers on 6 of the pegs, but we won't need them until we have finished row 3. Let's tilt our loom to knit over along the A pegs, starting with 2A. It's normal that we don't touch 1A because that was a slip stitch. Let's push down our loops. And now row 1 is done. Let's start row 2 by wrapping 14A. We'll make a large figure 8 over the pegs 12 and 13. Let's do the zigzag stitch on the pegs at 11, 10, and 9. Now for a large figure 8 that starts at 7B. Let's zigzag at 6, 5, and 4. Now comes a large figure 8 that starts at 2B. Let's do our last zigzag for this row by wrapping 1B, then 1A. And now we knit over all of the bottom loops. So wrapping row 2 is almost exactly like wrapping row 1, but in the other direction. You're just retracing your steps. One difference, though, is related to the slip stitch, and that means the peg that we skip. On row 1, we skipped 1A, and on row 2, we skipped 14B. Those are the slip stitches. So if you can do these 2 rows, you are well on your way to doing this design. As mentioned earlier, These 2 rows are repeated throughout the 6-row repeat. Now let's get back to row 2. We have knit over all of the bottom loops. We're pushing everything down. And now row 2 is done. After I completed row 1, I had forgotten to check off my list, so I'm doing that now. I'll check off row 2 as well. Now we're on row 3, and it runs left to right, and it's exactly like row 1. We wrap 1 bee and then do a large figure 8. Then 3 zigzags over the 3 markers. Then comes a large figure 8, and then 3 zigzags again. Now here's our final large figure 8 and our final zigzag. Now let's knit over all of the bottom loops. Now row 3 is done, and I'm going to check it off my list. Now for the fun part, which is the twisting. Start the left twist by removing the loop from 4B. We can find it quickly thanks to our stitch marker. Hold the loop in the back with your finger. Then remove the loop from 5B. Place that loop to the left onto peg 4B. Take the loop you've been reserving in the back and put it on 5B. Now you've made a left twist. Let's make another left twist by going to peg 9B. As you can see, it's also marked with yellow paper. Take the loop from 9B and hold it in the back. Move the loop from 10B to 9B. Put the loop in the back onto 10B. Now our left twisting is done, and it's time to wrap our pegs for row 4. We start with 14A, just like row 2, and we work our way towards the left of the loom. These large figure 8s that are wrapped over 4 pegs will give us a herringbone look, and I chose to wrap my pegs this way because I thought that this would help the braids stand out a little bit more. In the end, I'm pretty happy with the way these different stitches work together. So for knitting over, I have an important tip. Let's start by knitting over on peg 1A. Then knit over on 4B, 5B, and 6B. As you can see, those are the pegs that are associated with the braid. Let's knit over on 9B, 10B, and 11B. Now let's tilt our loom and continue knitting over all of the bottom loops of row 4. The reason why we knit over on those 6 pegs first is that the way you knit over can affect how tight or how loose your stitches are. I found that when I didn't do those pegs first, the twisted loops were way too big. They were quite large and quite loose, and it threw off the look of the braid that I was looking for. So we're done row 4 now. I'll check off our list. I'm done the left twist, and I'm done row 4. Let's go to row 5. There's nothing special here. It's just like row 1. And now row 5 is done. We'll push down our loops. I'll check it off my list, and we'll move to row 6. Row 6 is exactly like row 2. While you're watching me wrap row 6, let me show you the little practice swatch that I did that helped me see if the yarn was appropriate, if the braid was showing up well, and if my bind off was okay. The tension in the bind off is hard to get right, so make yourself a little swatch if you can, before making a full scarf. Now row 6 is done. Let's check it off our list and do the right twist. Let's go to peg 6B, which is marked in yellow, and let's take that loop and hold it in the back. Move the loop from 5B over to 6B. Put the loop you've been saving in the back onto 5B. Now those two loops have switched places. Now take the loop off 11B, move the loop from 10B to the right onto peg 11B, take the loop you've been saving in the back and put it on 10B. Now our right twisting is done. We'll push down the loops. I'll check it off my list. And let's work on row 7, which is wrapped like row 1. So since we've just done the right twist, we are going to knit over our loops in a certain order. We'll knit over on 14B just to secure our working yarn in place. We'll then knit over on 11B, 10B, and 9B. Then jump over to 6B, 5B, and 4B. Now again, this is going to prevent those loops from being too loose. Now let's knit over on all of the remaining pegs. You can continue this 6-row repeat on your own. So while row 7 is like row 1, row 8 will be just like row 2. I'll let you knit on your own, and let's meet again when it's time to add a new ball of yarn. Let's have a look at the progress after using one ball of yarn. There are 38 inches of scarf here. And let me show you the wrong side of the scarf as well. I forgot to mention that it's not reversible. The wrong side is a little bit bumpy, but I don't mind. If you want, you could make this reversible by making braids appear on both sides of the scarf. That means you'd be doing twists on the A pegs, not just on the B pegs. I'm going to make a magic knot to add new yarn, but you can use whatever way you prefer. My old yarn is at the bottom, my new yarn is at the top. Put the old yarn under the new. Then put it over the two strands. Bring it up the loop, then pull on both strands of the old yarn. I'll just move this knot towards the right a little bit to give myself a longer tail. Now let's work our second little knot by putting the new yarn over the old. Put the new yarn under those two strands. Bring it down through the loop. Then pull on both strands of the new yarn. Now we have two little knots. I'm just going to retighten the knot at the right, just since I had moved it down, but you don't have to touch it. What you do need to do is pull on the outside strands to pull these two knots together. Now just trim off the excess yarn and your magic knot is done, and you won't have any ends to weave in. Now you can carry on from where you left off. So go ahead and keep knitting on your own and go until your desired length. And if you want to follow exactly what I do when we start binding off, you'll finish up on the right side of your loom. See you soon. I've used up approximately 1.5 balls of Estelle Bulky, and I've reached about 61 inches. The width, by the way, is 6.5 inches. There are actually 2 steps to this bind-off process. We'll do a row of figure eights, and then we'll do the actual bind-off. Start the figure eights by wrapping 14A, 13B, 13A, and so on. Let's work our way to the left. Let's secure our working yarn by knitting over on peg 1A. Now let's knit over all of the bottom loops. Let's do that on our own and we'll meet when we're done. Now our row of figure eights is completely done since we've knit everything over. And since our working yarn is at the left of the loom, we absolutely need to go to the right of the loom. Move the loop from 14B to 14A. Then dive in with your hook to grab the loop below and pull everything upwards. Put that loop on 13B, dive in with your hook again to grab the loop that's below and pull it upwards off the peg. Now put that loop on 13A and do the same thing. Go in with your hook, grab the loop below, and pull everything upwards. Now put that loop on 12B and continue in the same manner all the way to the left of the loom. So let's bind off on our own and we'll meet again to take this off the loom. Here I've jumped ahead and I'm at the left side of the loom. I'm putting the loop from 1B onto 1A. We have 2 loops on 1A. Now let's cut the yarn and leave a generous tail. Let's go into that top loop and scoop up that bottom loop and pull it completely out. Now our scarf is off the loom. So I'll tighten up that knot. I see the corners are a little bit pointy. I'm just going to hand block it a little bit to make it nicer. Blocking would make the angles of these corners even better. So what we need to do next is weave in the ends. So I'm going to thread my yarn needle with the tail. Personally, I'm going to go across the whole bind off edge. I'm going to pull the tail until the scarf is the width that I want, and then I'm going to weave it in. I'll let you do that part on your own. Let's now go to the cast on edge and take care of that tail. So this tail has gone through the width of our scarf already. If we wanted to, we could just cut it off. I feel like bringing it back to the inside of the scarf, so I'm going to do that. Now our braided cable scarf is done and it's so pretty. I hope this video was helpful for you. Thanks so much for watching Ms. Yarn.